So, week 11 is focused on getting library content into the classroom and supporting faculty research. These are two kind of very different things, but because they're both very focused on faculty, they're very faculty centric, they require working with faculty. I thought they were worth putting together because they really both do require very good relationships with faculty to make any headway on them. So first, just a quick dose of painful reality that I'm sure you're all fairly familiar with, and that is the textbook nightmare. The average student spends $1,200 per year on textbooks. And as you can see for our class, I did not have any required textbooks because I am very, very, very sensitive to what students have to go through. I mean, sitting at the reference desk at the beginning of every term, you get students who are desperately looking for ways that they do not have to buy their books. Did the faculty member put it on course reserve? Chances are, more often than not, they didn't, which it takes so little effort for a faculty member to do. Um, did the faculty member try to use the library resources? Chances are no. Is this book available through our library or other libraries? Chances are, if it's a true textbook, no, because libraries more often than not are not buying textbooks. So we're this place where students are coming to try to get around having to buy all of their textbooks. Some libraries have gone to the effort of putting all of their textbooks on reserve. In many libraries, that's not economically feasible, and it's also not feasible in terms of space. I know our reserve, the amount of space we have in circulation and access services could not possibly accommodate having reserve readings for all of the courses that exist at our university. It's just not at all possible without at least moving most of things to online. So there are some interesting open textbook initiatives there. SUNY, State University of New York system, has been a real leader in this area. They're doing an open textbook project that was initiated by the Dean of the Library at SUNY Geneseo. They're actually working with SUNY Press, and other libraries to fund open access textbooks created by faculty at SUNY institutions. So that's really exciting. Most open access textbook initiatives actually have nothing to do with the library. They're nonprofits, state institutions, university presses. Those are the majority of groups that are doing open access textbooks. Libraries really haven't done a whole lot in this area. We're seeing now some libraries are offering money to faculty to either create textbooks or to solely use library resources in their course packs so that all of the resources, I mean, at that point, it's not really a course pack in the traditional sense. It's basically just an assemblage of links to library resources that are in the syllabus, but it means that nothing that the student has to read is something that they have to pay for. And that's the case in this class. I made an effort to ensure that everything that you guys are using in this class is available freely through the library, that the library's already paid for it, so we shouldn't have to pay for it twice. And often to do these things, it requires incentives for faculty, or in other cases, mandates where you say you cannot require students to pay for things. And I don't know too many institutions that have done anything like that, but it takes, honestly, that's the only way it's going to happen, is either you pay the faculty to do it or you force the faculty to do it. And the library is not in the forcing business ever. So here's some of the challenges inherent in getting faculty to not depend so much on expensive texts. I think the biggest one, and this is not the first one I listed, but faculty tend to have pet resources. They think, well, this is the best book on my subject, and they want to use that. And it doesn't really matter how much it costs. Like, for example, there's this great book called They Say, I Say that teaches sort of how to do research and write research papers. And it's wonderful. It's small and manageable. It's a very thin paperback. It's a $40 thin paperback. It's ridiculously expensive. But because faculty get very attached to something like that, they're going to assign it whether or not it's affordable for students. Um, Also, it takes a lot more effort to choose to use library resources or less costly resources because those aren't the things that they naturally think of, and they'd have to actually search and find alternatives. And they may not even think of using library resources, that's even an option in their course. And even if they do, library linking is not particularly easy to do. It's different in every database. You have to do things like add proxy prefixes, like you'll see if you see the links in this class. There are proxy prefixes for each one that authenticate you into the San Jose State University library system so that you can then access that resource. It's cumbersome and not that easy to do if you're not tech savvy. Um, and it requires a significant amount of collaboration between the library and the faculty member in most cases, unless the faculty member is like deeply committed to saving his or her students money. So it's pretty common for faculty to use library journal articles in their as readings in their classes. I mean, it's even though it's hard to link to journal articles, it's a pain. It's a lot easier than ebooks, certainly. But you know, it's a common practice for faculty to use stuff from journal articles from the library as course readings. And then you have ebooks, which ostensibly should be work a lot like journal articles. You should just be able to link to them, and then all students in the class can use it, right? Well, it's not quite so simple. Um, in some cases, libraries are charged per use. So instead of students paying for each copy of a book, the library ends up paying for each time a student uses the book. And in other cases, it might not be a per use charge. It may be you pay and you have a certain number of uses per year. I mean, I know that's the case with ebook library. You have like, in most cases, I think 365 uses, and each use is the time that a student accesses and downloads it. And that's the case with some of the books in this class. So if they're used more than that, then the library has to buy a second copy. Some ebooks only allow a single user to use it at a time. I remember being assigned to use an ebook in one of my classes in library school, and this was back in 2003, when pretty much all of the ebook models were just horrible like this, one user at a time. And I kept trying to access it and trying to access it, and there was always someone else using it. And I think finally, like at 3 a.m. one night, I was actually able to get to read this book. It's like, that is just not practical for an assigned reading for a class. And some, maybe have a 2-user limit, a 3-user limit. It's just not practical unless it's, non-linear lending. Non-linear lending means not one user per book at a time. Some don't allow you to download, so you're stuck reading it on your screen. I don't know about you, but I cannot read entire books on a computer screen. I love reading on my Kindle. I'm okay with reading on my iPad, but reading on a computer screen just drives me up the wall. And some only work on certain devices and not others. So there are a lot of limitations with what you can do with ebooks. And before you think, oh, I'll just use this in a course, you need to really understand what the limitations are of that specific ebook and its vendor. And faculty are not going to know all these things. I'll tell you, most librarians do not know all these things. I had to create a LibGuide here at my library on ebooks that show what you can do with each of the packages that we have, and we have dozens of different packages. And I don't even remember them unless I look back at the table I created. It's very complicated. So, my experience at Norwich with getting faculty to use library resources was really hit or miss. So, at first, the way things were structured were the librarians actually created the links to the journal articles or ebooks, etc., um, and then gave them back to the faculty member. So the way it worked is we would get a spreadsheet of all of the readings for each online class that was happening. And we'd go through and say, okay, this is available through the library, here's the link, this is not available, you'll have to get copyright permission, etc. Um, and and we were involved in the process so we could make sure that the things that could be linked to from the library were. And over time, as there were budget cuts and we weren't bringing in as much money because of the economy being so awful, um, it really faculty really only systematically started working with us to identify readings that they could freely get through the library when there was a mandate. So until then, it was only coincidental if something was available through the library. Most faculty were just picking the things that they thought were the best resources, regardless of the source. And then finally, there was a mandate where they said, we are not paying for copyright permission unless there is nothing available through the library that could possibly meet the same learning goals. So then the faculty worked with us more or worked on their own to identify things that were available through the library. But it was only when there was a mandate from above, from the administration. So getting on the subject of faculty research services, we are very involved in student research in libraries, and in most cases we are not that involved in supporting faculty research. And as you saw in, excuse me, as you saw in the studies that we looked at in week 2, like the Ithaca study, faculty don't actually often think of librarians as being there to serve their research needs. And that may be just because they think of us as helping their students. It may be because they don't think we're qualified, and in some cases we are not qualified. And it may just be that we're not marketing ourselves very well in that respect. Why would we want to get involved in faculty research? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me when you have in the Ithaca study the faculty are saying the library doesn't deserve as much money as they currently get, that we want to get them on our side. Making, just from a purely selfish political standpoint, our students are with us for 4 years. Our faculty are with us for decades. Making library fans out of our faculty is critical to our survival. So if faculty see us as an integral part of their research, as a real support in that area, they're more likely to see us as integral to the university. So how can we become more integral to faculty research? A lot of new things are coming faculty's way. The NSF and other institutions have required now that for funded research, faculty researchers have a data management plan. This is an area that most faculty are very unfamiliar with, and a place where librarians can provide expertise when they have it. I mean, in many cases, many of us don't know much of anything about data management, but with training or with hiring people with expertise in that area, we can play a vital role. We can also play a vital role in scholarly communication, helping faculty figure out where to publish, how to negotiate author rights agreements, how to get their work into our institutional repository. We can help with research. We can help them manage their own research during the process with citation management tools and other things like that. We can even be involved on research teams where we're actually part of the group that is doing the research. And that may be that we're just focused on the data management piece. We may be doing the literature reviewing, or we may be even more integrally involved in the research. As I already said, we can be involved in helping faculty negotiate author agreements to make their work more visible and open to others. And we can also get involved and partner with other research support units on campus. Like at my institution, we have the Center for Academic Excellence, which works with faculty and often offers colloquia um, on doing the research, getting the research out there, being successful researchers, getting tenure, all that good stuff. And also we have our Research and Strategic Partnerships program department, which helps faculty get grants, get research funding, and also go through the the IRB process and things like that. So getting involved with those units and partnering with them can also be really valuable ways of us to become more integral to the research process. Um, Lots of things to consider with both of these initiatives, with both getting involved with faculty research and with sort of the alternative textbook model. Um, liaison relationships are central. I mean, almost every study that looks at how to get library institutional repositories off the ground talks about the importance of the liaison relationships, because those subject librarians are the ones who are building relationships with faculty who understand what's going on with their research and can really provide support in a way that makes sense, that isn't forced. And that's my second point, which is really you can't force these things. You can offer your services. You can say, hey, we can help you with your data management plans, but we can't force people to come to us. These things tend to happen organically. I was talking with a faculty member about a class he's teaching and doing some instruction in that. And then we got talking about his research and how he's kind of changing his focus. And I said, hey, if you need any help with your literature review, I'd be happy to work with you on that. And then I ended up working with him on his literature review because it was an area that was new to him and I could be helpful in that. So these things tend to happen organically, and as you're talking with faculty about other things and building relationships, it just, it's incremental. We should also obviously be marketing these services explicitly, both through the liaison relationships and through other units that support faculty research, like I mentioned before. And these projects both require a lot of time and handholding. I mean, while some faculty can figure out how to do permalinks to library journal articles and ebooks, many faculty will be completely stymied by this, and they're going to need their liaison to actually work with them, and in some cases do the work for them. And that's just going to be something we're going to have to do because we want to provide a high level of service. We don't want students to have to pay a ton of money for textbooks, especially or readings that we already have available through the library. So we're going to have to do a lot of hand-holding, and that's just the reality. All right, well, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on getting involved in faculty research and getting faculty to use content from the library. They're both very difficult things to achieve, but areas where I'm seeing a lot more libraries placing emphasis on these areas. They're really emerging areas of library service.